Please rise. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we go on to approval of the agenda, I just want to make a couple of comments as the new guy taking over. I just want to put it out there, at least to the board members that are listening, and the new board member that's here. I believe as the chair that the committee's job is on behalf of the board, and our job is to ferret out anything we can representing the board, and do all the legwork so that when we bring it to the board, is little action needs to be covered by the full board. So hopefully we'll have asked all the questions and done all the due diligence in committee before we take it to the board. The purpose of the board, again, for our new board members is oversight. Our job is not to tell operations or anybody else what to do. Our job is for oversight. And then if we have an issue, we'll take it to the superintendent. The superintendent gives them direction as to what to do. But our job is oversight. We are a committee of the whole, and that means something. So policy and procedure and decorum still apply. Please wait to be recognized. Please do not interrupt speakers. And before you speak a second time, I'll ask if there's any comments, especially differing comments, before a second opportunity to speak is given. And then my biggest pet peeve is dilatory comments. A dilatory comment is a time-wasting comment. Just basically say, I agree with that person. That's a dilatory comment. Everybody's going to know by the way you vote, how you feel about something. But all that being said, I asked to please do the pre-read. There's a lot of things that happen in the pre-read. I don't know how much experience you have in operations, but please do the pre-read. There's probably going to be a lot of gaps in knowledge. There's still a lot of gaps in my knowledge because I've only been doing this for 2 years. So there's a lot of gaps, historical knowledge, why we do things. We're still covering the 2019 referendum, and I wasn't even living in South Carolina at that point. So there's going to be a lot of gaps in knowledge, but the more of the pre-read that you do, the more of those gaps get filled in. And then over time, you'll start to piece together the puzzles and all that kind of stuff. All right, on to the first order of business. Public comments. Are there any? Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I think where David can make the motion.
No, say I move to approve the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Is there a second? Mr. Carr?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion to approve the agenda.
Recording
all right.
progress.
Yay. Now we're recording. Are there any public comments?
No public comment.
No public comments. All right. Next order of business. Approval of December 4th committee meeting minutes. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. On to the next OE 16 FOIA report.
Right. Okay. So for OE 16 and 16.2 for the fourth quarter FOIA report and the 2024 annual FOIA report. Here's a few key highlights. In 2024, we had a little more than 90 requests, 93 to be exact. In 2023, we had around 140 requests. I think we saw this, we attribute this decline to in 2023, we had the library materials challenges going on at that time. This past August, November, and December in 2024, we received the highest number of requests. There were 12 in each of those months. April, we had 15 requests. The majority were from 3 repeat requesters, totaling 12 combined. Many of the requests this past year were about RFPs and involved email polls also. So we did want to give Molly Godley and I work on FOIA together along with Ms. Cartledge. We wanted to give a thank you to procurement for pulling documents for the RFPs and to IT for helping pull the emails. Happy to address any questions anybody has.
Anybody present questions? Mr. Geyer? Mr. Carr, any questions?
None.
All righty.
you can either move it to consent agenda at the next meeting. And not put it on consent agenda.
So move to put to a consent agenda?
If you all are in total, if the committee is in full agreement, you can move it to consent agenda.
Is there a motion to move to a consent agenda?
Move the motion.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is approved. So OE 16 will be moved to consent agenda for the full board. On the custodial maintenance report.
So
Thank you, Dr. Brew.
Randy Majors will be presenting that.
All right, so tonight for you, what we have in front of you, first off, I just want to say welcome aboard. It's nice to see you here at the chair of this committee, Mr. Nay. And other fellow board members and board members, welcome aboard. So any questions that you have during the presentation, this report we do monthly. It's twofold. The first section is going to be custodial monthly report. The second section is going to be maintenance. I'll go through it rather quickly. I'll take a break after the custodial report for questions, and then at the end, we can have any questions for maintenance. Okay. Yes, sir.
If you, on this particular meeting, can you take a little extra time and explain the graphs in a little bit more detail for our new neighbors?
Well, and the nice thing about this report, it leads into what you're asking us to do. This is going to be our first custodial report that we're actually reporting data on all three vendors. So the school district did something pretty unique and different with our custodial solicitation this time around. And instead of selecting one vendor, we chose three vendors. So those three vendors are assigned. They have two groups per vendor. And so this is actually our first report where we're starting to look at data outside of the staffing metric that we put in place. This is the first report we're actually starting to look at inspection information for all three vendors. So I will actually go into a little bit more detail. This first page you're going to see are our January inspections. So we started our inspection program effective January 1st. So these are results as of the month of January. The first 90 days when the custodial contractors came on board, they started October 1st. And so those first 90 days was implementation timeframe. We were trying to get systems in place, the previous vendor out, and the new vendors in. So January is our first month that we're going to create our baseline data. And then we're just going to move on from there. We're going to start, you'll start to see in the coming months historical trends of how we're tracking with this information. The inspection information for the school district, we created our own custodial inspection form. So now with this custodial contract, we have our operations department staff doing custodial inspections, and we have school principals doing custodial inspections, and we have their designees. So every school principal has access to these custodial inspections, and they were given an opportunity to elect one designee at their school. So these inspection results that you see in front of you are district operations inspections that have been completed by our staff, as well as school principals and their designees. There's two sets of data here. The first set are our inspection scores and our averages overall from the district and school administrators. And then the second set of inspection scores are what the vendors are doing for their own inspections. So we'll take this center graph where it says vendor versus BCSD average score. And you'll see the specker, the speckled bar, the 90% to 82%. That 90% is going to be what the vendor's average is for inspections north of the broad. And you see the school district's inspection form is significantly less at 82%. On the right-hand side of this chart in the middle, you'll see vendor inspections total 373. The blue number is going to be north of the broad. The gold number is going to be south of the broad. On the left side of this center chart, you'll see BCSD inspections. So we did 112 district-wide. We did 95 north of the Broad and 57 south of the Broad.
55.
Sorry, where? Oh, 55 north of the Broad and 57 south of the Broad for a total of 112. So you can see that center chart. You've got north of the Broad, then you have south of the Broad, and then you've got our overall district total. So our overall district total, still we're at 83%. Our inspections, the vendors' inspections averaged at 91%. So obviously that tells you we're rating them pretty harshly. We are definitely holding them to the fire on that. As you go down the page, you'll see school inspected. We inspected 20 schools overall. There were 60 out of our 112 inspections that BCSD. There were 60 that fell below our 88% mark. So in our contract, our goal that we want to hit for our inspections are 88%. If a score hits below an 88%, then that space is to be re-inspected. So out of our 112 BCSD inspections, 60 of those were under an 88%. Moving to the right, you can see operations staff completed 59 inspections, and then administrative inspections at 53. That is our school principals and their designee. Moving down the page, what we wanted to give you is your highest average and your lowest average. These averages are taken from our BCSD inspections, not the vendor's inspections, okay? So you see going from left to right, we gave you an area that has a highest average and a lowest average. And then moving across the page, you have your highest and lowest average for ABM, for Bud Group, and for Interstate. Those are our three vendors. Any questions on that information before I move to the next page? And again, I want to preface this and say, this is the first time that we're doing this format with these three vendors. As we move through this in the coming months, and even today, if there's any feedback, if there's something you'd like to see that we're not showing, especially once we start to talk about historical trends, please, this is where we want to get that feedback from you as board members.
I just let someone in on iPhone.
If you are attending on an iPhone, can you please let yourself be known?
Hey, it's Ingrid. Sorry, I'll try and change my name.
I can change it for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Boatwright.
I have
Alright, so
I have a quick question.
Mr. Carr, go ahead.
Yeah, it just, where it says area, ABM, Bud, and Interstate, that's new to me. Could you just spell that out a little bit?
Those three are our three vendors that have split up the areas of the
Okay.
district. So we have
All right.
three different vendors for custodial now.
Got it. All right, that helps. Thanks.
So we'll move on to the second page. So our second page, we've shown this since November, is our staffing percentages for each vendor. So part of the contract is that the vendor is required to maintain an overall staffing percentage of 90% or higher. If they fall below that 90%, then there is a penalty structure that they are held to from a monetary standpoint. So as you can see here, we've got a 3-month trend. We've got ABM, the Bud Group, and Interstate. Your red are going to be percentages that are 80% or below. And then 81 to 90%, you're going to see the yellow. Those are individual schools. Right now, we've got 2 schools on the ABM side that we are seeing tracking in that red area. So we're obviously going to have conversations in the coming months about how we're moving towards eliminating those staffing concerns. We will continue to show this information in this format, and you'll see it based on a 3-month historic trend. So moving down this page, we see our custodial deficiencies. This is the first time we're reporting this graphic. Part of the custodial contract, we put in set parameters to hold our custodial vendors accountable. One of the examples I would say is if they fail an inspection and we have to go back out and re-inspect that space, if they fail a second inspection in that space, then they are given a penalty. That penalty means dollars back in our pockets when they go to submit their billing every month. Okay. So we wanted to show you and again, these are effective as of January. We didn't start these until January. So for the month of January, we had 3 deficiencies. 2 you'll see under ABM and 1 under Bud Group. Our deficiency categories are broken into 5 categories: insufficient staffing, non-compliance of cleaning, inoperative equipment, summer cleanup, and miscellaneous use. In these 2 scenarios, ABM had 2 failed concurrent inspections that hit below 88%, which caused them to have penalties. So that's money back to the school district. And then we had, the Bud Group had 1 penalty based on a furnishing in a classroom that was damaged because, the custodial spilled cleaner in the room and it damaged the rugs. So we did our due diligence. We took pictures. We got the information we needed to report that to the vendor. The vendor is going to make restitution and replace that carpet 100% at their cost. So we will continue to report on these. Below this deficiency chart, I wanted to give you just the general structure of what we hold them accountable to when it comes to penalties. You see the insufficient staffing, the non-compliance to cleaning, the inoperative equipment, summer cleanup, and miscellaneous use. This is all specific verbiage from the contract that shows what the parameters are when we look at penalizing them. Deficiencies, we do have deficiency forms that we created as part of the custodial packet. Those deficiency forms are completed by school principals and their designees. So the same individuals that are completing inspection forms for us are completing deficiency forms. District operations staff are completing deficiency forms as well. And, if, for example, if I get an email that comes in like I did with the rug where school reports it, I investigate it, I meet with the district manager for the custodial vendor, we look into it, then we fill out a deficiency form, and then that deficiency form turns into a penalty. Okay. Any questions about the deficiency section as far as reporting?
Can you maybe expand for our new members what the timeline for deficiency correction is?
So it depends what it is. So if a deficiency is reported for, let's say, an inspection, they have 24 hours. I'll give you, for example, if they fail an inspection, the initial inspection is below an 88%. The vendor has 24 hours to then correct that deficiency in that inspection before we go back and re-inspect. If upon re-inspection, that deficiency is not corrected, then they get a deficiency report filed against them, which equals the penalty.
What about staffing? Obviously, we got ABM has had some problems.
Right.
With OT.
So staffing, we are working through right now. So staffing, they're required to submit their staffing plans in our Google repository. We have a large Google custodial repository that has every individual school's information in it. So they're required to submit their staffing plans in that Google Drive. My task in the coming months is going to be how to district-wide, or me personally, how do I get their payroll records and how do we close the loop on processing staffing penalties? Right now, it's very visually present that we need to have a conversation about schools that are in red, especially the specific one for ABM. So we're going to finalize that process to see. Right now, I have access to all their payroll records. So that's something that we'll have to vet from a district level to then complete those deficiency forms. Okay. Any other questions about deficiencies?
Would just note, if you would note that the insufficient staffing is overall for their entire area has to be above 90%. So it's not based on an individual school.
Oh, okay.
So like ABM has overall staffing at 94%, even though they've got 2 deficient areas. So they're above 90. If they fall below 90, then they get the penalty supply.
Gotcha. Okay,
Mhm.
that makes sense then. Yes, Mr. Smith.
Well, I do have a question in terms of, about staffing and even, this, it correlates to the plan in terms of, a couple of custodians was telling me that, one lady said, I think that she was having was thinking about having surgery, but then, what she realized that one of the companies is that they don't have, they don't have like days they don't have days like where they can in terms of insurance to where they have oh my god
Sick leave.
yeah, sick leave. Yeah, they don't have, yeah, right, they don't have sick leave days or days they're having a surgery or something to kick in, and a guy also told me that was an issue for him as well, and I was thinking that they were supposed to keep what the current what we had currently had offered him. I thought that was a part of the contract. When we put out those what do you call it now when the lady comes and speak to us?
The solicitation, RFP.
The RFPs. And so can you speak to that? What does that look like?
So there was a requirement, and I can get you those specifics and bring those to the next board meeting. There is specific language in custodial solicitation that the school district had a required minimum probationary period time frame, as well as minimum benefit structure for each company. And we'd be more than happy to bring that information back. Speaking with the previous custodial vendor, which was HES, they did advise me that they paid, if employees had remaining sick and vacation time, those employees were paid out that leave upon leaving our, Beaufort County School District. As far as starting over, when the new contract started over, those employees started over from a benefit and a service timeframe with the new vendors. So they did.
90 days. They had to have things kick in within 90 days. Is that right?
I want to look. I want to look to be sure, because I don't want to say anything that's not directly stated in the solicitation.
Right. Yeah, because that's just a concern of, we've had staff who's been with the district for years, and they God forbid they blow their knee or something, or they have some surgery they need, and they don't have any days. That is definitely a concern.
And I'd be more than happy to include that in the next report. I'll just put a benefit section in there that clearly states what the school district required as a minimum for benefits as far as probationary period and benefits with leave structure.
And if you could, if it's not too much, also could we also find out can we compare that with can we have a sample of what we offer our classified employees as well, just so we can kind of just so for me, if you want me to, I guess I could ask for that, but I mean, but if you could have, if you have time, if you would do it, but if not, I can ask for that too as well.
We can get that. That's no problem.
You can't get that? Okay.
Okay.
That's why I was looking to Robert to see, can we get that? Okay. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Okay. So for the penalty structure data, I think we're going to get more. This is just going to get more and more granular as we get into it, as penalties are assessed and as we finalize our process. So we'll move on to the next page, which is our custodial update. So this is our part in the report where we talk about recognizing success. So as Robert stated, that staffing part that we had referred to previously, all three vendors' overall staffing plan was greater than 90%. So that's something we do want to see continuing, as well as we'll focus on the schools that we're seeing a lot of red. We did get the Google Drive up and running. It launched January 1st. We went through our 90-day testing phase, and our district operations staff, I just want to give them kudos. The month of January was busy because as all the schools came online and started getting into these folder structures and doing these inspection reports and deficiencies, it was really a lot of questions and a lot of support in the background. So I'm happy to report we did very well with that. We also in January conducted our client business review. So we do that 3 times a year with each one of our contracted service providers. We do it in the spring, summer, and fall. We did this one a little earlier than we normally do, just because we wanted to see how well we were doing after our 90-day implementation period. So we were able to get our client business review done with the Bud Group, and then we have our remaining 2 with ABM and Interstate scheduled in February. You'll see as we scroll through the report, we had a very successful summer clean. All 3 vendors had staff in the building. We were doing, winter clean. I'm sorry. Thank you. Winter clean. We were doing flooring work. We had, they did a lot of exterior pressure washing. We had, acknowledgements. Interstate had acknowledgements for their staff at Bluffton Elementary School for high scores. We also had for ABM, we had a school give some of the kids wrote some really neat thank you notes to them. And so we had a really successful winter clean with our custodial vendors, and then we also had some really great highlights for the work that they did over the break. So this concludes the custodial part of the report. And any questions for the custodial or anything that you want to see so I can make note of, other than we talked about the benefits for the next report? You're good?
Mr. Carr, any questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay, perfect. So now we're going to go into maintenance. Maintenance, we track our work orders for our fiscal year. So our fiscal year started July 1 of 24, and it will go through June 30. So we start from the top of the report. We like to show you the total work orders to date in that first graphic that you have there. So 16,228 work orders submitted to date. And then we like to show you the graphic with the maintenance initiated, 6,000, and then the completed of 12,599. We still have 5,558 work orders in progress. So we're still working towards, maintenance is still working towards decreasing that backlog, which is still, it's pretty high. As you go down the page, we're going to show you total work orders requested and completed. We're still tracking to be low, I would say, between our PM and our non-PM. If you look at we like to give you over the last 3 months again, that historical trend. You see in previous years, we're still lower than we've been, especially when you go to your far right, you see completed January 2024. We're at 1814, and in previous years, last year in 23, we're at 2538, and in 22, we were at 1967. So we are still working towards trying to push through that backlog. And I meet with maintenance weekly, and we have these conversations weekly. I want to make note with maintenance. Maintenance is going out for bid this year. The maintenance contract is a 5-year contract. We have no extensions left available to us. Our current contractor is ABM, and their contract does expire June 30th. So within the next month, we should have we hope to have our maintenance solicitation out. And then the new vendor would come, their contract would start July 1st. Okay. Our maintenance initiated, you can see there again, our numbers are down. So we want our maintenance staff to be more aware and more proactive out there, and that we are struggling with that. Any questions about the information on this first page before I move to the work orders by craft?
When's our next blitz?
You're well before me, but so our blitz that we had scheduled for Hilton Head Elementary School in January was canceled because we had a snowstorm. in Beaufort County. So, our next blitz will be in February and it will still be at Hilton Head Elementary School. So we'll have this on the February report.
Do you think that the decline in work orders completed has anything to do with ABM? It appears they already have a staffing problem.
Staffing is a problem and that's in this report as well. So we are losing, we are down 8 staff positions right now. There's 64 staff. They're at 56 right now. I mean, 87, I think it was 87.5%, which is later in the report. We've not struggled historically with staffing with maintenance. We've just not, the maintenance contract has consistently been solid, with our ability to recruit and retain positions. In the last, I would say year and a half, we've just seen a steady decline with staffing, not only their ability to retain, but also to acquire new talent. And so we've had those conversations significantly.
Part of it's coming out of COVID. There's been a change in the demand and the change in the cost for maintenance type workers, and they have not been able to catch up since then. So one of the things we're looking forward to is the new contract will get us an opportunity to reset all of that.
I think there's some senioritis going on with the contract being about to expire.
No, typically you see a contractor put their best foot forward at the end. I truly think that we need to expect, and I've told our finance team, when this goes out to bid, it's going to be a significant cost increase. I think the problem is the contract cost is still at a pre-pandemic level, and the cost for the workers is post-pandemic, and those have to come. And so when we go out to bid, whoever wins it, we're going to pay a lot more than we pay right now. And that will give them the opportunity to level out their hourly.
I think that we need to have a board discussion on this because I really don't think that we need to put this out for bid. I think that it's time that we bring these people back in house because of the fact that when you're talking about what we have going on, not just in Beaufort County, but also these people, they want solid insurance. They want when you have all these rental properties, places that are moving around. You have the air station. You have these different schools. We have other schools now who need the same. They need the same workers that we need. So therefore, I'm going to go to the person who's going to give me the best package. And here at the district, we control the package that we give. So why go out and put up and go for bid when maintenance, we buy the trucks? We basically outfit these maintenance people. So if we already outfitting them and we're already doing all this stuff, then why should we continue to put a contract out and allow somebody to come in and get a contract and really basically majority of stuff that they're using or that they need, we're providing. So the question comes to, what are we really giving up and what are we really not being what burden are we not getting? So I think if you bring them in house, I think that brings more competition. I think that's something that we need to have a question around in terms of should we even put that out for bid, because I don't think we should put it out for bid. I think that it's time that we bring our maintenance and some of these things back in house, and people that our workers are people who pay taxpayers some of them who live in the community, and they've been asking to come back in there, and that's another reason why I've been told me that's why they leave. We can go to the air station, send the bus drivers. We can go and get better. We can go and get better packages, and we're gonna deal with one person versus the school district. We got to deal outside companies. So now you have double bosses. You have a boss for the company that you work for, and you have a boss for once you get to the building. So I mean, it's and people are saying they're not always on the same sheet of music. So I think this is something that the board needs to really drill down, and we need to upon even the budget season that we need to have this conversation and see if this is something that we want to do. Be that this contract is coming back up, because 5 years is a long time to give someone a contract for. So I think this is something that the board needs to have a conversation on.
We just had a conversation a year ago, and we voted on it as a board. I don't know what the statute of limitation is to bring it back up when it was already voted on and voted down by the board. I don't know. Does anybody know? How often can we bring up the same point over and over?
That was, I think that was last year, but also, I don't remember saying that it's coming, that now the contract is coming opening. So if the contract is coming opening, then I think it would be appropriate that the board have this conversation, because also we have a new board. Last year, we had a different seated board. So now we have a new board of people who may have different ideas and may have different perspectives. So I think that is only right that we bring that back up. And I'm not sure what the Robert rules of order is on it, but I think that we have new members and we have a new board, and the contract was not up at that time. Now it's saying that, look, in January, we're putting it back out. So before we put it back out, I think we have a due diligence to have that conversation to because we're talking about money, we're talking about spending taxpayers' money and how it would best suit our taxpayers. And I leave it there.
Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, so I think the last year when the comparison of in-house versus out-house was done, the thing that surprised me was how heavy the benefits are. And that really sort of pushed it away from us bringing that in-house. Because we were looking at how could we sort of stay current in terms of the marketplace, and that was a shocker. So if you do the due diligence, which you normally have done, and you did last year, then it will show you where the economics lie. And then that, to me, that would be the time to bring it before the board.
Yeah, I'm not sure if everything that was done is still applicable right now. I mean, I don't know as far as all the research was done and the presentation that was put together a year ago. But we're now in the process of putting together our, voting on and, budgetary concerns and all that kind of stuff. If the board is going to entertain it again, I think now is the time that we would entertain it again. Is there a motion?
Leah Frazier has a question in chat.
Go.
He said, any thoughts on splitting the job between more than one vendor?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're already split between 3 vendors.
For
Oh, maintenance. Oh, maintenance.
For maintenance.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, she's asking for any thoughts on splitting the job between more than one vendor, like what we do with
For custodial, yeah.
You want me to take it? Okay. Yes, we are considering that. So we're writing the solicitation now, and we're going to write it so that we can have up to 2 vendors. There is a little more difficulty in dividing maintenance, and there's some thought on whether if we do that, we divide it north-south, or do we divide it by trades? But yes, there's definitely a thought that we're considering multiple vendors for maintenance, or at least leave that option available.
Yeah.
And if we did, then I would definitely, so once again, also like to see what we're already spending in terms of vehicles that we're providing them with and all that stuff, because that stuff, that adds up. I mean, and you're talking about maintenance from some other company driving a truck with Beaufort County School District on it. We're still are responsible for that. If they go out and they hit somebody or they get into an accident, I believe that we still to have some type of responsibility to that vehicle. So once again, I just want to put it out there, make sure when we do bring all that we're bringing all that as well when that conversation does take place. Hopefully it takes place sooner than later. So I'm making a motion. Yeah, I make a motion that that we look at bringing maintenance back in house, and we see the pros and cons of it in terms of the costs around it, and in terms of costs to the district.
Is there a second?
I'm seconding.
Any discussion? No discussion? All those in favor of bringing the topic of bringing our custodial back in-house to the full board, raise your right hand, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No, all right, and we will bring to the full board a discussion topic, maybe probably for our next work session, I guess, maybe about maybe bringing all the custodial back. I don't know if
Maintenance.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, okay.
My apologies.
Didn't know.
I don't know why I'm still stuck in custodial. Maybe the presentation was so good. Yeah, so, but, I don't know if the research that was done last year is still applicable, if we need to do another year's worth of research.
So the research we did previously was custodial, so this is maintenance. It's a little different, but it does apply. We're gonna have the same kind of issues. They're gonna be they're different, but they're parallel. So that'll be, what I would say on this is that, we are looking to put the solicitation out in the month. And so if we're gonna, in order to get a new contractor in place by June, we need to stay on that track. Now, at the same time, what I'm hearing or thinking is, all right, we'll start another track as far as in-house. And so if the board decides to go in-house, well, timing's, if the board decides to go in-house, we'll stop the track of solicitation and we will have to then move to bringing that in-house. Because all of that has to be in place by, obviously by July 1. The solicitation process will take us 3 months. We will then have to bring to the board. So the board, if you decide to go in-house at that point, would then say, all right, we don't accept the solicitation. You're going to go in-house. Because either way, we need 2 months to transition from the old vendor to the new vendor. So we're quite honestly, we're behind as it is. So the only thing I would ask is we can stay on our track that we're on, because in order to get it in place by July 1, we can't stop. And then we can go the other track and bring information to the operations committee and the board. And if you decide, we'll cancel the solicitation and move over to bringing maintenance in-house. And the only other thing I'd say, yeah, we do lose maintenance workers to the base. We've lost several. I think their pay is about 3 times what they make. So recognize whether you're in-house or out-of-house, the pay has to, we don't compete with them. You're going to have to raise their pay either way drastically to be competing with the base. So it's just a fact of life. They pay way more than us. I mean, that's the way we look at it. Because we don't see that we can compete with them on their pay scale. But I will bring all that information to you. And we'll have that conversation. But we're gonna have to go 2 tracks if everybody's okay with that.
Yes. I mean, obviously, there's going to be a discussion with the board chair, because it's going to have to go on the agenda as close to as immediate as possible.
Well, I assume we'll bring the report back, a study to the operations committee. And then, so we're talking about the March meeting of the operations committee. I get my months right? January, February, March.
Ms. Frazier puts in, plus, what is the likelihood of finding those individuals?
Well, so part of our conversation is going to be that a larger company has a bigger draw because they have a ladder to climb. So you look at an ABM, a national company, we've seen people climb their ladder, move on. We don't have that. We're it. You know, whatever we have in Beaufort County, if it's in-house, you don't go beyond what we have here. And our reach is not as broad as some of these larger companies. That would be part of the conversation. So that is a good point that Ms. Frazier brings up, I'd say, and that would be part of a presentation we would bring on pros and cons of maintenance in-house and out-house.
All right. Yeah, my question would just be along the lines of even if moving forward with that would not put us in any legal. When we put you basically you're trying to. You're asking the board to basically, do you want to continue the track of actually putting the RFP out? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, because before any vendor is selected, it'll have to come to the board and you have to approve it.
Right.
So we will continue on that process, but if for some reason through the presentation process, the committee and the board decide, stop out of house and go in-house, well, then you're not going to accept our vendor, right?
Right. Well, I think more of my question is, what's the process that you're asking us to allow you to do? What does that process look like?
Continue with the solicitation. We set it on the street.
So-
We'll ask for proposals for vendors. They will come in. We'll form a committee. The committee will review proposals. They'll select a vendor and that vendor will bring it to the board. That process takes about 3 months. So we have 3 months before we're probably bringing something to the board for a vendor selection.
So, and answering the question, basically, you're going to put an RFP out. Is that what my understanding is?
Yes, I'm just asking, because let me put it this way. If we don't put an RFP out and you decide, well, either way you decide, we're in a bind because our contract ends June 31st.
Right.
We're not going to be able to react in a time manner to address our need. Your only choice will be to extend the contract with the current vendor, which the solicitation doesn't allow. I think it can be allowed. I'd have to get procurement in here. I think if you, the board, tells the superintendent he has to extend the contract for 6 months or a year, he's going to do that. But
So
you know, you're getting into, I need procurement in here to say really what we're allowed. We're in trouble. How about that?
Right. Well, my only concern here is I want to make sure that we're not, by putting, advertising or saying, hey, once we're accepting bids on it, that if we stop and say, hey, we're going to do it in-house, that we're not legally putting ourselves in the gray area to be sued and say, hey, you kind of mislead because you put out the RFP.
No, until you select a vendor, you can cancel it anytime. That's up to y'all. Yeah, there is no, I feel comfortable in saying there's not a legal
Ramification.
because we put bids out and canceled them in the past. That's just part of that process. They can't hold you liable that you decided you now don't want to finish that bid process that you started.
Okay. And then that's one more last question. Also, in terms of the RFP, what I was kind of learning is that the RFP, I believe the RFP should come before this committee so that we know what the RFP looks like as well. And I believe that at some point before the RFP goes out, that the operations committee we should see the RFP.
Yeah, we're getting way ahead of ourselves on that, though. I mean, first we need to take it to the full board if we want to pursue this at all.
Right.
And then if the board votes on it, then come back to committee and figure all that stuff out, right?
Oh, no, if
Well, no, what he's asking is for y'all to review the RFP before we put it on the street.
right.
So we're wanting that to go out in the next month. That means, so right now, the board requirement for us is to notify you of all, I think it's only major construction art. We do notify you of like maintenance and others, but as of right now, the only thing we're bound RFP wise is just make sure you're aware that RFPs are out on the street. If you are going to review an RFP, that means that one, we need to get it together fast. And in order to get it out in a month, we've got to do some special called meetings for y'all to review the RFPs, get your comments back, get that. That's an unprecedented, you're really getting into the weeds of operating.
Yeah, I'm not sure that as far as coherence governance goes, I don't know that that's within coherent governance.
Well, that's what I'm asking. But also, my question is actually, I would kind of beg it a different because the same question that I've asked in terms of what the application looks like. I mean, what the process is like when we hire new companies in terms of what the in terms of what the insurance companies so that what insurances that they will be required to do, all that's a part of the RFP. So I would beg it different, and from my understanding that there were certain boards and there are certain governments who do look at the RFP before it goes out because really the RFP is coming from the district. So it's not necessarily just coming from the superintendent. The RFP is coming. It's really coming from the district because basically we're accepting the contract. So what happens if someone get a awarded contract and then once we look at it, it's out to accept it and we say, well, we don't want to accept it because it doesn't have these terms on it. So then the fact it says, well, why didn't you? That's not what you stated in the RFP. And actually, we've had that happen where we have accepted contracts. But then the board has had some concerns around the contracts once we got out, but we say, look here, now in the RFP, this is what went out. So really, it's like, is if you didn't say it when it went out in the RFP, then you can't backtrack it now. Because with RFP, this is what you went out, and this is what you agreed upon. So I think that there's a conversation that we need some clarification in there to understand that. Because you can't, once the RFP goes out and you said you don't want to go with what the RFP states, then you're in violation, you open yourself up for litigation. So that's why on the front end, I think we should be able to see the RFP and say, hey, we have a question about it. So hey, so therefore, really, it's more of a formality once someone actually gets the contract, because we already know and we already understand what the RFP was going out. So we have some litigation questions, I think, that needs to be answered, and understand what that process looked like. That's something new to me that I would at some point like for us to discuss very soon. Because I really think that we should see the RFP, from my understanding, before those RFPs go out, because we are accepting that contract under that RFP. So what's the point of us, as you would say, what's the point of us accepting the contract or having the conversation around it if we're just going to go ahead and we're just going to go ahead and rubber stamp, but we're just going to go ahead and go along with it. So that's just how I see it.
You done?
Yeah.
Okay, so as far as coherent governance goes, our job is to enforce policy.
Right.
So in our policy, if we want to direct the superintendent as a full board, not as a committee, if the full board wants to tell the superintendent, you will include these things in the RFPs so that they are included and all that kind of stuff. But as far as us reviewing and okaying, we get into a Mother May I situation. And Mother May I situation is not what the committee or the board is about. Because then it's the staff coming to us, is this okay if we do this? That's not what coherent governance is about. If we want these things to go into the RFPs or into the contracts, then our job is to direct, as a board, to direct the superintendent to make sure they're included. And he will make sure that the operations staff includes that and stuff. But if we get into a Mother May I, and as you said, invite litigation, then who is culpable? Who is responsible? Because then it's not the superintendent, it's also the board members, because we told the board members, okay, you could do this. We gave him permission. So then where you place the responsibility and where you place the blame starts to become a very gray area. So I understand the point you're making, and we don't need to rehash this. We're starting to beat a dead horse and we're getting way off track. But I understand, but I
think you misunderstood what I said.
I misunderstand.
Well, the way you explained it to me is not what I'm saying. Because what I'm saying is that, no, it's not as in this committee actually says we're going to go with it. The same way how we make recommendations to the full board, then that RFP, from my understanding, and I believe county council, those RFP goes to the full board, and the full board at the board meeting say, yes, we agree upon that RFP. I'm not talking about this body. I'm saying this body it's the same way how Mr. Otting and his staff bring stuff to us. They can bring it to us and we can weed out the same way how we weed out everything else. And then we take that recommendation to the full body, and the body says, yes, we agree with the RFP. And then that RFP goes out. So no, I'm not saying for this committee to say, hey, this is what we want. I'm saying that this committee started and look at it and then do the committee work as normal operations procedures, as we've been doing on different things. And then that RFP goes to the full board, and the full board appointed. So therefore, there's no select few people who Mother May I know. The board is saying this RFP, this is what we stand by, and this is what we're expecting if you're bidding on it. And then they go and they do their process and bring back who they saw fit to it. So what you're saying was a little different from what I just stated, because you're saying Mother May I, and I'm not talking about this committee here decides. No, I'm saying that this committee works on it and takes it to the full board, and then the full board says, hey, we at this point in time we make a motion that we send the RFP out completed. That's what I want to make sure that there's a slight difference from what you said to what I said.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Ms. Frazier put in chat, shouldn't that be a conversation with the superintendent and not his staff? And you just said that, addressed that.
Okay. Any other conversation? All right. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah,
Good
no
luck.
worries. All good stuff. All right, so moving on, our next page that we present every month are our work orders by craft. So as the work orders come into our maintenance work order system, we have 138 crafts in there. So we give you a snapshot of the top 8 crafts, the ones that have the most highest volume of requested work orders, and then we give you the completion totals. Out of those top 8 crafts, we focus on the 2 highest. It's this month our 2 top crafts are HVAC and plumbing. It's normally HVAC, I'll tell you. HVAC is normally one that's pretty repetitive. Plumbing is probably in the top 3 of what you'll see every month. But our 2 categories were HVAC and plumbing. Ladies Allen Middle School had the highest HVAC work order total. So looking at the data, just overall to put things in perspective, we had 211 HVAC work orders requested this month. Ladies Allen Middle School had the highest and had 23 of those work orders. None of those work orders were for preventive maintenance. So then what I do is I take those work orders and look a little bit deeper into out of those work orders, what were they really about? A high volume of a specific mechanical failure? Were they just a lot of general random work orders that had no connectivity? A lot of the work orders for Ladies Allen Middle this month for January was dealing with thermostat issues. It was cold. It's cold in January. So this particular school had a lot of recess that had to occur because the heat was malfunctioning. So they had to go in, they had to do some resets on systems, they had to go in and adjust thermostats, but they were able to go in and acknowledge those work orders and get them completed. The next section was plumbing. So we had 234 work orders for plumbing requested this month. Hilton Head High School had the highest at 19. 2 were for preventative maintenance. What we see at Hilton Head High School, it is an older school. There is challenges there with those drain lines, and what we do see with plumbing work orders pretty historically on a regular basis with Hilton Head High School is we get clogs, we get drains, we get the main lines. We've got a lot of clean out areas that maintenance has installed to try to get ahead of when we have substantial system breakdowns, that they're using those clean outs to try to get those main drains cleared out. The good news about Hilton Head High School is even though they're repetitively in this report under plumbing, we are replacing that school. So these main drain line issues, we anticipate becoming a thing of the past pretty soon. So we'll move on to our next page. We have our next 2 pages. We focus on our maintenance work orders requested and completed for a month because we want to give the committee a snapshot of our average days that it takes to complete a work order. The first page, we show you north of the broad work orders requested and completed. So within the same month, maintenance was able to complete 52% of the work orders that were requested and completed. And when you scroll down the page, when we do all the data analysis, you start to see our trend. We like to show this graphic every month so you can see on a 3-month historical trend how what's their average work days to complete a work order. So November 4.77, December 4.26, and then we saw that rise in January of 5.03 for our north of the broad work orders. Moving on to the next page, it's the same type of data set, except it's south of the broad. So south of the broad had 54% of the work orders requested and completed. And then as you scroll down to their average day to completion, they also started to uptick from 3.25 in December to 4.14 for average days to completion. We're going to continue to move forward. We kind of already on the next page addressed that normally in the section where it says maintenance school blitz, we normally choose a maintenance blitz, school blitz that we do every month. What that entails is our district operations staff, along with our maintenance team, our custodial team, grounds team. We pick a school north of the Broad, south of the Broad. We alternate every other month between both sides of the Broad River. And we go in and we meet with school administration. We do a facilities walk of the school. And then maintenance, custodial and grounds does a on blitz. They identify projects that need to be done. We look at work order counts to see what work orders can be completed. And we do that and feature that information in this section. So next month in February, we'll have Hilton Head Elementary School will be featured for our February blitz since we were unable to do it this month. We have already spoken about staffing, again, 87.5. We've got 56 of the 64 maintenance positions are currently staffed. Right now, we're down 2 plumbers, 2 general techs, 2 HVAC techs, 1 generator technician, and a locksmith. Just to talk about talent acquisition. So we recently, in our last report, featured that we hired an HVAC manager. To get that HVAC manager, ABM recruited that individual from Texas. And it took them months to get that in. So they are seeing challenges not only with their regional, but with their talent acquisitions ability to really find qualified local candidates to fill these positions. And so they pushed their salary mark up a little higher, offered some benefits and some perks, and actually got this in Texas. And he's reported, and so far he's doing a great job for the maintenance department as an HVAC manager. But yeah, and I mean, they had to kind of push outside that regional mindset and go more of a national talent search and add a lot more perks to get that individual here. As far as recognizing success, we a few months ago reported about this new beacon alerts notification system that we were signed on with Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority. Previously, we had just gotten manual letters in the mail or robocalls that said, hey, you have a high consumption at this location, which was not the best tracking of if we were having water leaks or high consumption rates at schools. So we signed in and got connected with this beacon alerts notification system. The great thing about that is our data operations specialists, along with our maintenance team, have been able to monitor through this system. So we're getting real-time alerts now. And maintenance is able to go out and actually evaluate these alerts to try to get in front of them. They were able to, in January, they found a pretty large leak at Broad River Elementary School. So that was the highlight of this new system. We see it's working. Yes.
Good, thank you.
As far as tree work, maintenance is continuing to work through locations to identify multiple tree projects. And we're evaluating those for funding as well as getting third parties to give us sourcing quotes on that. Another thing I wanted to, the last thing for maintenance is our moving work orders. Since August, it's astounding. Our moving work orders have exceeded 300 and our man hours are over 2,000 just alone for moving. So that takes a significant amount of labor. It's not a difficult thing to do, but when you're already 8 positions down and you add on moving work orders on top of that, you start to see these data trends that we're seeing with work order completion totals dropping off, maintenance initiated work order counts dropping off. You start to see the stress of the system and we're seeing that right now. We're seeing that with our maintenance contract. Okay. So I just gave you that last successful paragraph because I kind of wanted you to get a perspective of what you're seeing the fall off with the data and maybe some of the other things that may be pulling our maintenance department in some different ways. Okay. So that concludes the maintenance and custodial report. Any questions or feedback for future reports other than what we've already previously spoken about?
Mr. Carr, any questions?
None, I'm good.
So I got just a couple things. First of all, I noticed in the craft category, there were more completed for HVAC and for electrical than were requested. So you're getting into the backlog, only a little bit. That's still good news. So I just wanted to recognize that.
Yes.
So what work orders have precedent? So if like, you know, we have all these outstanding work orders out there, okay, we're going to attack these first and these, because of shortfalls, we kind of might have to push to the side.
Right.
What is the order of precedent?
So life safety, life safety is number one, asset preservation is number two. So those are your top two categories that they will focus on.
Let's define life safety basically means fire alarm. Trying to think what else. Fire alarm is kind of your biggest life safety.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I mean,
just want to make
yeah,
sure.
life, yeah, yes.
We keep using that term life safety, but it basically means fire alarm.
Fire extinguishers and all
Or
that kind of
PA
stuff.
system.
Yeah.
Something that, because PA systems are used for life safety to evacuate. buildings.
Door access, if you can't secure a door, I think of other examples other than fire alarm, door access issues,
Elevators.
elevators, that's another one. Asset preservation, so, something major in your facility, you've got a leak, you have a fire, anything that could cause substantial damage, is obviously we want to get in front of that before it costs the district, a lot of money. And then they're gonna look at specific requests that come in for schools that are date related. You may have some very specific requests that come in for event support, or deadlines that they have to meet that are directed by school. But our two top priorities are the life safety and the asset preservation.
All right, and then this may be opening a can of worms, but I think because we're talking budget right now, how long, if we choose to, if we're up for recontract on maintenance, you're talking about the disparate categories of pay between us and the air station, which is going to be, and Paris Island, to be honest, right? So how long before that gap bites us? Because
we've lost historically throughout maintenance. We've lost people to the air station all the time. That's been a constant. You get workers in and they pay more and they go to the air station. I don't think that's a battle we can win. That's because their pay is significantly more. You're talking, I've heard people making 3 times. That's not something we're going to be able to close that gap. What that means to me is that, but we have to be able to win over others. Like we can't have somebody going to Parker's to work on it as a maintenance guy making more at that location. But the air station, we can't compete with them.
So in your professional experience, when this next contract goes out for contract, what do you think the increase is going to be? 10% more, 10, 50%, 75% more, 100%?
I'm telling finance we're expecting 25% increase. Custodial contract went up, I don't know, but it was higher than 10, pushing 20, I think.
It was 20, just under 22%.
So when custodial, that's kind of what's coming out of the pandemic. You look at teacher salaries and all that, they haven't had they've had 3% increases up till now and behind the 8 ball as far as those increases go. So I'm warning of a 20 to 25% increase with maintenance, which is what we saw with custodial.
I have a question. Like when we get the vendors in here and district pays the vendors, but we don't necessarily have control over what the vendors pay the employees.
No.
So we can't even control that.
Now you can set minimums. We did talk, one of the things with custodial is we talked about a minimum salary.
Okay.
You can, and there is no reason we can't, as a board, you could not right now say, ABM, we want you to give everybody a $5 raise and here's the money to pay for it. You can give them an increase, right? There's nothing stopping you as a board to, as part of their contract, give them an increase in pay today. Our budget's not set for that. So it wouldn't be recommended, but you can set some minimums, but for the most part, what you are paying for with our maintenance contract and our custodial contract is for labor. And you are paying for them to manage the labor. Like Mr. Smith said, we pay for the equipment, we pay for the vehicles, we pay for everything else. What they pay for is labor, and that is what their contract. They are there to manage it, hire, fire, train. That is what they're there for.
Mr. Smith? I just want to piggyback off of what you said. Yeah, we could, say, you could say that we could give them $1, but from what I was told was that during COVID, that didn't happen. We gave some of those contractors some money apparently because when we gave our teachers and different staff members bonuses or something that for during that COVID time that uh apparently it was said that we gave some of those companies some money, but the companies didn't use the money for what was kind of said that the company kind of used the money for what they kind of wanted it to. So once again, that's the gray area. That's just a pro and con of giving the money versus not saying it because they were saying that they were catching hell, getting people to come in and work during that time and different things. So once again, versus someone who's already working, when everyone gets a bonus, if they're a part of staff, they get bonuses versus saying that hey, we want you to up their up what you're paying them. I just want to put that out there, but also I'm move on to something else too. That's just sure. Go
I
ahead.
mean, I don't, we didn't, so as far as the maintenance contract, we did not give those big bumps as far during COVID. So we did give some
To custodial. Okay, well,
and it was for extra staff members and things of that nature. We also paid them to give them more benefits, to
Right.
give more, and you know, give them more sick days. That became part of their contract, and they did that. Now, we did,
that's not what I heard, but
that is not correct, sir. They did that. That is a fact. And if they did not, we could hold them accountable. Their contract said they had to do that. So I have to say that they were held to making sure that they were given sick days.
Well,
Because that is what we paid for.
I won't hash that out today, but
We did not
I
pay
think we had that
for,
conversation.
especially maintenance, we did not pay for a salary increase. Nor did we in no way did the board approve that. So you did not say during COVID, here is, you gave our employees one, you did not tell maintenance to increase salaries.
So we get the money for what was it again now? To find employees?
Now, maintenance, we did not,
What-
but for custodial, we added additional cleaning staff
Right.
for COVID to wipe down doors and also places where they did not have enough staff. That we did fund. So they did add staff as part of COVID. We also paid for, which y'all requested, additional sick days. We gave them additional sick days as part of during COVID, but we did not give them wage increases beyond what they would have incorporated normally. There were no extra wage increases.
Well, my point is that what you're talking about, to me, I don't think it's prudent for us to do that. Because it's been said that we've done it, but people said they hadn't seen the extra money, they hadn't seen. And I don't want to rehash that, but I'm telling you what staff members, some people who work for the district for 20 some odd years, they know when they check change because these are people who bring it to me because some of those people they do follow this stuff. And I don't want to rehash it here, but I do remember me coming and bringing that point back that the money that we said that we were given, that staff members were saying that they had not have seen that money. So I don't want to rehash it, but my question I was finna ask this now was
Hold on a second, before you go on, trying to make sure everybody gets the voice here. Mr. Downs?
Yeah, so one of the things, listening to the conversation, we think back to the custodial review, did a very rigorous review of the costs at that point in time, and you looked across the nation and you also looked across the seaboard, right? And I think it's going to require that level of detail. The other thing is we participated in a conference call today with another school district, and they had some really innovative ways in terms of teacher salary, but they were really at a deficit. And so I think it's just appropriate to really consider what's going on in the marketplace. One other additional data point is in California, truckers are like they send their trucks out there to pick up fruit and vegetables. Those trucks are delayed, canceled loads, pallets that they normally would get are not there. That's because the workers that have been in the fields to actually pick the fruit and load it up are not there anymore. So I think we're really going to have to look at what is happening and then project out how do we address this. So I think your point earlier about having a rigorous review, I think you may have mentioned that as well, a rigorous review to really sort of understand what's going on. That's all.
But my main point was I definitely appreciate the what you were saying and not knocking, but I think that it's more than just the same thing as I will say in several board meetings. It's more than just the pay. Sometimes it's not about what you say, it's about how you say what you say. And people have stated that they wanted consistency, and versus working for two people, they want to work for one person. So I think it's beyond just the air station and the pay. It's also there's some other things that goes into why people leave these companies, or why people leave the district. It's beyond just pay. I think the pay kind of comes across to people in the community as an excuse of really addressing the real elephant in the room. And so I think it's more than just the pay, because you have people who are leaving here and going to work for Parkers, or people who are leaving here who are going to work for some of these new apartment complexes. And you have people who are going to work at some of that at Bridges and some of these other charter schools. So they're still, I'm sure they are still in the same price range that we are. So I think the compensation is larger than just the air station. I think there's some other things that need to be examined too, in terms of culture and climate, and what that looks like too, upon when we get there, about looking at those decisions, and upon talking about how we're going to change what the wages are for people with those services for the district. We'll put that out there as well.
All right. Anything else? All right, moving on. Ladies Island Middle School zoning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So,
On to the good stuff, really.
So where this came about is we're at the schematic design phases for Ladies Island Middle School. So we've looked at the layout of the building and how it's going to fit on the site. And we were coming into some schedule and financial hurdles that our design team was working on. And so the original plan, if you've heard us talk about Ladies Island Middle, has always been to place the building on the football. That would allow the existing building to stay in place. Once that building was completed, we would then tear down the old and build a new football field. Are you able to keep that up there? Yeah, I think, can you flip it around? I think it's upside down. You can rotate it.
It's all relative.
Well, you can read upside down. I have trouble. I'm map oriented, so it's not working in my brain.
But which way should it be?
So this is the football, this is north. I mean, this is way
On to the right.
Like that?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's correct. You can see the word, so that's upside down. There we go. Okay, so if you'll see the blue outline, that was a design that we looked at moving the building to over the football field. So through that process, the design team was challenged to look at ways to reduce costs, is actually where this came from. And the contractor, and this is to me one of the big benefits of our CM at risk process, the contractor came back and came up with the concept of placing the building off the football field and closer to the existing building. Now, and making the footprint smaller. All of a sudden, this seemed like a much better alternative due to price. It also allows, while the school is being built, football to remain available to the school for use. So it has less impact on the school. It could be built faster. But what we're talking about now is a 3-story middle school, which is the classroom wing. So which makes completely good sense in a middle school for planning, because you would have a 6th grade floor, a 7th grade floor, and an 8th grade floor. It just actually works. So programmatically, it works better. Cost-wise, it works better. Impact on the school is less. And part of the other reason for the big cost is because this site has a lot of really magnificent oak trees. And now that we are able to leave the football field, we don't have to tear down as many trees. So we can leave a lot more of those specimen trees there. I say all that to say the problem with this school site, though, is to build a 3-story school, this current zoning only allows for 2.5. So we actually went to the city of Beaufort and said, can we get a variance from a 2.5 to a 3-story building? And they looked at it and talked about it, and everybody actually likes the concept and likes what we're proposing, says, yeah, your plan's a better plan. But they recommended we not look at a variance, but instead rezone the site. Because they said our site is actually not zoned properly for a school anyway, although it's grandfathered. We should go for more of a school zoning, which is IC, which is institutional classification. That allows for a 3-story structure. So say all that, sum up, that is why we're here. We're here. One of the things that has to occur, part of that rezoning process is, and part of that application is the board has to recommend that this site be rezoned. And so that I'll stop talking. See if you have any questions.
And what does that look like? Because you say rezoning, you're talking about possibly changing areas that may attend that school or.
No, we're not talking about student rezoning.
Right.
We're talking about zoning rezoning. I mean, if we're,
Like residential business, that kind of stuff.
land use, land planning. So yeah, this is a different rezoning than student. Nothing to do with students. And as far as the school goes, whatever zone it's in has no one would know otherwise at the school site or how it's used. It's just what we're allowed to build there. Why we have to go for the rezoning.
Right, because I just don't, when people see that, they're gonna automatically think about, even when I read, I think when they said rezoning, rezoning, I just wanna make sure that it's not in terms of students and so on. But even with the, help me understand what's different from the initial project that you bought us the first time, or that you bought before the first time. What's the difference?
So if you go back to this sheet, it's basically, you see the 2 footprints are on here. So the school that we talked about last time is in the outline.
Right.
And it sits on the football field.
Right.
And it was a 2-story academic structure in one wing and a 1-story on the other.
Right.
Now, if the dashed line here is the existing school site, now we're talking about this orange line, which is a new building that's coming in closer to the school site. But this wing right here is now 3 stories.
So we're coming back closer to that land that we were saying that we didn't want before. So basically, we're coming closer back to that land now that we said that we weren't interested in. Because I mean,
We're staying on the school site.
Right, but if when we're building, where would the school be at on that? Would the school be at where that break point is at?
So yeah, basically, Mr. Smith, this area here is where the field house is, where the old
Behind the gym, between the gym.
and the track.
And the football field.
Right.
So the area we're
That's
talking
the area
about
we're talking
land
about
way
building.
down here. That's not even in the, we're not close to that area
Okay.
at all.
Okay.
Basically, instead of being on the football field, we're building between the school and the football fields. But a 3-story building.
Versus the 2-story that we were talking about the first time.
Any other questions? What is the financial burden on the district to have that property rezoned?
Lawyers' fees. So, I mean, all in all, you're talking about less than, I don't know the exact number, but let's just say it's less than 50,000. But I can tell you it's saving us more than $50,000.
Yeah, that's what the point that I was trying to make. Yes.
I mean, I think.
Does that include for the architecture fee to redesign an entire new school?
No, because we're at the schematic design phase. We haven't gotten beyond.
Oh, okay.
All right, we're finding this out early enough that, if I can just promote the CMR process, they are the ones that brought this idea, not the architect. And that is why we want them on early, because they looked at this and said, hey, we can construct this faster, better, cheaper. We did this, and we started looking at it and said, you know what? It's actually a good idea.
And if you mind chiming in, the city did say that this is more preferable because now you have less land disturbance, so and
Less stormwater
stormwater
impact.
possible.
Yeah, everything the city said when they saw this was like, we like this idea. This is a good plan.
So is it gonna make a cool sound? Like the $6 million man? Bigger, stronger, faster. All right.
But if we were grandfathered in,
We're grandfathered in to build the school, so
right,
the zoning does not allow for a school site to be on this property, even though a school site is there. And we would be allowed to build a school site. Now, we would not necessarily be allowed to build a 3-story school site because school is, people don't fight against schools. In a lot of places, all zoning allows for schools.
right.
It's kind of uncommon to have this where a school is not allowed. I've kind of not heard of that before, but.
Right, and I personally don't know if I want us to bend at the merits of the city of Beaufort is in terms of making them comfortable with what we do, because to me, I see it kind of crazy because I think wasn't it just something that passed in the city of Beaufort about them building taller buildings or something along that. So realistically, technically speaking, that is really on Ladies Island a little bit. So and that's kind of the school district's property. So I'm not really sure why they want us to change all that, because really once you change that in that zoning area, then it opens it up for other people as
We are
well.
only changing the zoning on our property.
Right, but how it goes is
Yeah, other people around.
exactly once they let us.
More.
Right.
If other people nearby want to build an institution like a
Right.
school, hospital, something like that, then yes, so the hospital had to do this when they built. They had to be rezoned
Right.
to the institutional classification, which actually fits their use better. Like us, it actually is made, that zoning is made for us and we're not using it. Because we are an institution. So institutional classification makes sense.
You go, John.
So does the institutional classification change, how we, like, is it gonna change like, any of our requirements to the county? Like, I mean, is it gonna change our, like, property tax or anything like that?
Pay property tax, but the only thing it changes is the way we're allowed to build on the site, or what you're allowed to build.
Yeah, and what everybody does around us is transparent and negligible to us.
They would have to go for their own.
Yeah, that's their own.
Rezoning if they wanted to.
Yeah, and that may be true, but I know community members when Beaufort City was talking about them building that tall building, a lot of people was against it because they said that it opens this area up to having 3-story buildings, and people may not want those 3-story buildings or buildings that tall around their house. So once again, as someone knowing that and in tune with what the conversations that prior my constituents have, this brings out a cautionary in my mind, because like I said, once again, once we open the Pandora's box, it's open. And when they can't say, oh, well, just a contractor may say, oh, well, even though it's a school, y'all allow the school to do it. So, hey, I have a buyer right here who wants to do the same thing right across from the school. So they can't tell them no just because they opened it up to us. Then that brings the city, So, and I don't want to I don't want the school district to be used for a pawn for the stuff to be started. And I can see people in that neighborhood coming and saying that they may not want that to be for us to happen. So I just want to put that out there, that knowingly that this is something that can come about from this, because they were very expressive. They were very intentional about their feelings in terms of when Beaufort was moving that project forward. I think that project is still in court, or was just got out of court about the 3-story buildings and the area of the city. So I just want to put that out there. So I mean, we won't be surprised if someone would come forth and not agree with this project.
Yeah, I'm glad you did bring up something I forgot to bring up, which was another point. So the 2-story building was right near the residential property line. So by building this 3-story building, we're moving it way away from the property line, further away from the residents. So that was another thing we brought up to the city, that they also agreed that that'll probably be, there may be people that disagree, but it may be more beneficial for those residents to move the building further away from the property line, 3 stories, than be right on the property line with the 2-story building. So that was another pro.
Okay. So very funny people over there.
All right, if, for the committee members, if you scroll down to the bottom, there's a motion to be made. Does anybody care to read the motion?
I'm not seeing a motion.
If you scroll all the way down to the bottom.
Recommend a motion.
The last page of the presentation.
Yes, I read it.
Please do. Thank you.
Operations Committee supports rezoning application for the Lazytown Middle School property from suburban district T3-S district to an institutional and campus district IC and recommends board review and approval.
For a second.
I'll second.
Second. Carr, second. Yep. Any discussion?
Yes, I would say at this point, I'm not going to support it because I don't know where my constituents are on this, and I think this is something that we should have brought to the constituents before taking it to saying that we want to put it out there. I think this is something that should have been discussed publicly. And so as a representative of this area, and I've had some of those same people who, with that same issue you just brought up in terms of who were being close to the building, they brought up some issues, and now I'm not sure where people may stand still. So I can't support that because of I'm not sure where my constituents will stand on this. So I at this point in time, until I get a better understanding from them, I will not support this.
All right. Just any other discussion? All right, well, I mean, Mr. Smith, just for your consideration, obviously, I'm not telling you how to vote or support, but just we're voting to take it to the full board. The full board is going to discuss it, and when it goes onto the agenda, your constituents will have an opportunity to review it then, and then even come to the full board and make comments. So I mean, you can vote either way. I'm just saying that your constituents are still going to have an opportunity to look at it and make their decisions about it either way. But any other discussion?
Well, and just to respond, I would just say that we also could have had a community meeting and like how I was saying, while county council is having a meeting about changing the way how we interrelate our middle school and some other stuff. I think that we could address this with the public as well. Versus the question would be how soon do we need this motion? Is there a rush on this?
I mean, yes, because this decides how we're going to build the building. The building will be on hold until this decision is made. So it could jeopardize the opening of the school in 2027.
Well, yeah, see, and that's my issue. There's always a rush. So with that, once again, I'm not sure how they may feel about that. So therefore, until I have some understanding, I can't. Yeah, we probably need to have a community meeting about this.
All right, the motion on the floor is out there. There's been seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor of taking this to the full board, signify by saying the right hand. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 3-1.
That means it will not be on the consent agenda.
Correct.
All right. Move to the next one. Remember now, we get 2 of these in 1 month. This is not common. But this is the Bluffton, the Early Childhood Center in Bluffton. Now, this is different. This is for an annexation into the town of Bluffton. This is the property that we've called in the past the Nisar property next to River Ridge Academy. It will be used in some way for the Early Childhood Center. There's a couple versions going around right now where, and those are still being worked out, whether a part of this project is on this project site, or it could also be on the River Ridge site near the fire station. Anyway, you look at it right now, River Ridge is zoned for the town of Bluffton. This property is adjacent. It is a donut hole in the area as far as River Ridge and all the properties on Bluffton Parkway, which is ours. There's another parcel down from us, and the fire station are all within the county, but everyone else in the area is within the town of Bluffton. The town of Bluffton does support this process. The purpose of us to rezone this so that it be contiguous with the River Ridge Academy project and the we are looking at the Bluffton permitting process as being more advantageous to us. So for those reasons, we're looking at putting, having this annexed into the town of Bluffton. We actually did the same thing for River Ridge Academy. Before we built that site, we annexed it into the town of Bluffton for the exact same reasons. And so your packet, by the way, are all the parcels that have to be contacted for the annexation process. As far as cost for this, again, it's going to be lawyers' fees. But I don't know the exact number, but let's just throw out less than 50,000. I feel confident in that. Any questions?
Questions?
And what was the pros of annexing this into Bluffton prior to Bluffton?
So the two big ones are the permitting time. The county is longer, and the requirements that the county have are more costly. And so by going into the town of Bluffton, we shorten our permit time and we lower our cost of construction.
There we go.
Anything you want to add to that, Carol?
No, I'd say that most of our schools in the Bluffton cluster are in the town, except for Okeechobee, and it's just because it's so far out of their town.
And remember, River Ridge is in the town of Bluffton.
Right.
So if we build this and it's in the county, those two schools will be next to each other, and one will be town of Bluffton, one will be in the county. Which may, if you start talking about SROs, that now you could have somebody that would be town of Bluffton in one and sheriff's office in the other, which that doesn't make sense.
That's a valid point.
Yes, Mr. Yeah, so it sounds like a good move. Saw what you said, makes it easier. It doesn't, when I was reading, it doesn't say you annexed it into the town of Bluffton. Is that necessary in the motion?
So I do have a new motion because
Okay.
we actually talked with the town of Bluffton today.
Okay.
I did send it to you via email. I do have a paper copy, which I may not have brought. So I will pull it up, or if Robin pull it up, because this is what was recommended by the town of Bluffton and our attorney. And I apologize, but this conversation happened about 1 o'clock today.
You said it was a recommended motion by the town of Bluffton?
For the annexation process, because the problem is, to annex the property, the board has to approve the annexation, and this was the verbiage that our attorney in the town of Bluffton said fulfills that state requirement for annexation. I apologize. You have it, Robin?
Yeah.
There you go. You can put it. That is the motion. Sounds like a lawyer wrote it, doesn't it?
Which is good, because this one is a little bit too broad.
Yeah, yes. And, you could go with a lighter one, and have that one in front of the board, but in case you put this on consent agenda, if you read that one.
So, Mr. Smith, tell me if I'm wrong or not, but kind of reading the room, is this something that you would want to bring before the full board also, or are you okay with putting this on the consent agenda?
I can bring it before the full board.
Yeah, so I mean, we need to put in there that we recommend taking it to the full board.
Oh, you can take the vote.
We don't have to, because it's not going to the consent agenda, so you can automatically I'll put it on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
Because you're not recommending it to go to the consent agenda.
Oh, okay. So, anybody want to read it?
The Operations Committee recommends the Beaufort County School District pursue annexation into the town of Bluffton and rezoning to residential. General Beaufort County tax map parcel R600 029 000 0034 and R 600-009-000-118-0000, and authorize the superintendent on behalf of the school district to sign all petitions, applications, and documents required by the town of Bluffton to complete such annexation and rezoning.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is out there. It's been seconded. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 3-1.
Yeah, post, please, ma'am.
Augustine, you're up.
Good evening, everybody. For allowing me to give you the construction updates through the month of January 2025. Starting as usual with the 2019 bond referendum, we are continuing to work on the closeouts of the remaining projects for the referendum. I know this report says 24, but I did get a couple of closeouts for this month, and we do expect to receive more in the month of February. We are working diligently with the contractors to get their closeout documents to finalize their finances and get those cost of work adjustments so that we can continue to proceed with the full closeout of the referendum. As of now, the financial summary, we are showing a total of 215 financial commitments completed to date. The financials, paid and committed funds totaling 373.61 million up to date. The remaining available funds, including the contingency, we have about $2.1 million remaining. The contingency activity in January, we did not see many savings return, a little over $400 and a use of $321,000 in the contingency. As of the end of January, the remaining contingency was $884,000, give or take. Any questions on 2019?
I saw, oh, wait a minute. I think I saw somewhere, what did I see that, that we were waiting for closeout documents since 2023?
There's been a lot of projects that did fall behind in the process, and it was dealing with issues with contractors not having sufficient workforces, hiring contractors that were not doing the work as they were intended to. We eventually had to get our team to go and do inspections with contractors to basically give them a list of corrections that they had to do so that the work would be in compliance with what the contract documents were calling out for. So a lot of that cleanup took place in the past year, and this is why it's taken slow steps to get these things to the closeout line.
So is the closeout paperwork date set before the work is complete?
No.
Because I could have sworn, I mean, I can see if I can find it somewhere. But I could have swore it said that the closeout documents were due in fourth quarter of 2023 and they're still pending.
Yeah, so that was the targeted dates.
That's what I was asking. Is there a target? Is there?
That was the targeted dates, and we just kept them from when we initially did the program reset. And then eventually what we've done is we created a column for the actuals where we're actually receiving them. So we'll report it in that reporting. I mean, you saw it a couple months ago when we had closeouts. Yeah, come through. We give you the actuals, the next report, we remove them from the list. That way you start bringing the list down. So that's what I explained. Next month, you'll see some actuals come in that column. And then the next month, you'll see those projects come off the reports.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any further questions, 2019? All right, moving along to the 2023 referendum. We have all the projects reporting green lights with the exception of May River Elementary. We have a yellow traffic light, and that is regarding the permits with the town of Bluffton, which are basically pending the negotiations with the POA from Palmetto Bluff. Not getting too many details with that. I know that everything's getting worked out, so hopefully we can change that to a green light very soon. May River High School CTE, for those of you that did not attend, we had the groundbreaking ceremony this morning or this afternoon. My apologies. We have the foundations and sewer relocations are starting hopefully this week. So site pad is ready. We're ready to rock and roll on that project. The New Early Center, Mr. Otting reported on that, as well as the Ladies Island Middle School project. So we're gonna skip over those updates unless you guys have any questions regarding those. All right. The financial updates for the 23 referendum. The current referendum budget has not changed from what was originally approved, which was $439.03 million. Paid and committed funds to date are $178.81 million. The remaining available funds, including the contingency, right now we're totaling a little bit over $260.22 million. We have no activity for the contingency used in the month of January. And as of now, the program contingency still remains at $11.4 million. Any questions regarding 23 financials that I need to clarify on?
All right, let's then go back. I would take it down with this. How you done?
All right. Moving to the other project updates, again, other project updates, these are the capital improvement projects from the 8%, any food service equipment replacements. Those projects are all reporting with a green traffic light. And again, I just want to highlight on the May River High School cafeteria expansion. Those foundations, the report says they were scheduled to begin in February. Those foundations have begun already. So that's part of today. Yeah, that's moving in tandem with the CTE project over at May River High School. Community outreach, obviously the groundbreaking, so we're gonna skip past that. I'll move to the request for proposals and qualifications. The RFQs for professional design services for Bluffton High School CTE building, that was awarded to Jumper Carter C's. The RFQ for the Riverview Charter School Gymnasium, that project was awarded to Caplia Co Architects. Any question regarding construction updates?
Right, and those ones that she just reported on, those were already voted by the board, right, for approval?
That is correct. That was approved on February 4th, 2025.
Now, before you go to report, I do have a couple questions in terms of, I know that, we worked on the gymnasium too as well over at, the Ladies Elementary School. And I was told that the AC is not fixed yet, and the AC will, was told that it probably won't be ready by the summer. What's going on with that?
Is that a maintenance request?
Yeah, I'll have to look into it and find out. That doesn't sound reasonable, but I'll look into that and get back to you. I don't know what the situation is.
Okay.
Yeah, I would assume if there was anything, they probably put a work order and it should be in their maintenance log of what items they need to correct for HVAC.
You said Ladies Island Elementary School gym?
Yes, sir, gymnasium. Yes, sir.
Elementary.
No, the elementary school.
Yeah.
That's not the elementary. And there was a question earlier in terms of was asked in terms of priority in terms of priority, how we deal with some of these things in these work orders in terms of emergency. To what degree does the heat index, and is there a certain heat index that we can't allow our kids to be in the classrooms at, or how does that play out? What does that look like?
So to your point, as far as importance, yeah, HVAC is becoming a more and more important and crucial part of the classrooms. What you're referring to is Head Start has a federal regulation that at a certain temperature, kids have to be sent home. We do not have that. So there is not a set temperature. So like for Head Start, I think it was 68 degrees. If it gets below 68 degrees, kids have to go home. We do not have that temperature. And so it's more of a 64.
64 was what was reported.
Okay,
Well,
But,
there is a
I'm
set
just
temperature.
wondering what-
I think we may have gotten down to 64, which is below, I don't really, but there is a set temperature. We do not have that. It's, superintendent or staff's call, staff would notify the superintendent. And we'd have a conversation if we were going to send kids home due to temperatures.
Right, and the reason, and I'm asking that, and I'm not asking that in particularly about Head Start, so that was the wrong assumption. But in terms of it, I just want to make, my question as in the district as a whole, because we've been getting a lot of concerns. I know last year when we came back to school, there were a large amount of concerns about heat, different things, and a lot of people were saying that the kids are being hot. And so with knowing that, just in terms of understanding the whole picture of it gives me as a board member when I'm approached by a community member or my constituents and they ask about, well, my kid's class was hot. It gives me a marginalized error to say, hey, look at, well, I know that normally if the kid's class probably was hot, unfortunately, but when it gets to a certain degree, the district takes it real serious, and the district may even move the kid around or something. It gives us more of it gives us more of a stability to have a lighter conversation with the parent versus them saying it's hot. How hot is hot? Because hot to someone could be in this room, but someone else's room could be cold. So what's that temperature? And understanding that, I think that's something too that we need to. Or it's a question of understanding, even in work orders, how the question was asked, how do we put which one first, or what's priority and what's not, even though she said safe. So my question is, how would that fit in to what we have going on right now? And apparently it seems like we've been not having an answer, but I think that's something to move forward to upon as time go by, knowing, getting ready to come into the hot season, that what temperature may be too hot for our students to be in these classrooms, or may cause a situation to go from the back of the line to the front of the line. Because we do want to reassure parents that we are taking their kids being hot, which we are taking those situations serious, because it was very uncomfortable anyway to have a large amount of those conversations when we first started school was very uncomfortable. So I think now to have some parameters and to have some measures in place to be able to make parents more comfortable this time, I think it'll be more befitting. So that's just something that moving forward, that somehow I'd like for us to start talking about that and not wait until it gets hot, to start having those calls to understand what that may look like. So I don't know if we want to put that on the agenda or what, but
Yeah, just refresh my memory. Last summer, when school started, and there was all those HVACs, did you implement a new protocol to sort of address it?
We have been spending a lot of time on HVAC.
So you may want to share that, what you actually did to address that problem.
That is coming out in the RFP, as we've revamped the RFP completely on how we're handling that. I'll be glad to go over that. But our program, well, I mean, I can talk about that as part of, but yeah, I'll be glad to go over what changes. We have made some drastic changes to maintenance, and they are going in now.
So Mr. Chair, that may be.
I was going to say, Mr. Smith, if you want to cook on that for a minute, when we get to suggestions for future topics, if you want to mention at that time.
no problem.
All right, can we continue then?
Yes.
I'm through with my report. Any
So,
further
you sure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any further questions?
All right. All right. The last item, OE8. Now, this is basically, and for the new board members, this is a good document to reference, because basically what we're doing is reporting all the OE8 is our administrative or OE from the board that covers facilities. And here's where we report how we met all those requirements. So basically, when you look at got an executive summary of OE8, it talks about what you'll see each of the items are in bold, and then our interpretation of those items is what's written after that. And then after the summation, we show monitoring indicators where we indicate how each of these items was met. So I'll be glad to go through each of these if you'd like. But it basically goes through all the reports and how we gave those to the board. So we want to start on page 4. Those are all the monitoring indicators. Talks about where we report and what items we reported to each for the board for item 1, which was develop a short and long-term facilities plan. And then it's broken down into multiple subcategories. And you want me to go?
No, I mean, it's been posted in there. I mean, we've all had a chance to read it now for a couple of days. You don't need to go into further detail.
And so what I would like, if you go to page 7, like quarterly updates on projects, Augustine just did a report for you. And so we would note on our next time that here on February 11th, we gave that report. Brandy gave the report on maintenance and custodial, which, by the way, we only have to do twice a year. But since we were having so many issues, we moved to basically monthly. So you'll see there we list every time we did a custodial report to the committee. So with that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Any questions, comments, concerns?
It's a need a motion for approval.
Yep.
And you can go on consent if it's.
Is there a motion to move this to consent agenda?
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second? Second. So motion is made and seconded to move to the consent agenda. All those in favor, raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries 3-1. And next item for business is future topics.
Oh, thank you for future topics. We know that I do want to talk about in terms of the what was the way to put this temperatures around the HVACs in terms of what's the comprehensive plan in terms of how we're going to attack that moving into the summer months when those pick up.
Okay.
And when it sounded like you already, actually, you put a little more elegant on it. You said there was already a plan that he showed, but he said he made some additional changes, some major changes to the RFP.
Yeah, so that was an issue last,
Right.
going into summer, and he collectively, the operations did some things to try to report quicker and track and what have you.
Right.
But I think what Masadi is saying now is that he's trying to do even more.
Well, yes, we changed we're not, it's more oversight on how to improve our performance from our HVAC team. And we're not getting down into the minutia of temperatures. So if you want to have that conversation, to me, that's a different conversation. This is how to be more responsive and ensure that classrooms are not down for multiple days or even longer in the future. So, I mean, if you wanted a future topic to be improvements to HVAC maintenance, that is what we're addressing.
Are you kind of like thinking about the criteria that trigger an emergency response?
Yeah, more of a criteria that creates emergency response. Yeah, I'm thinking more along that line.
So, I mean, if I can, our problem in the past has been that the number of units down are greater than our number of workers. So, and in that category, a unit that impacts multiple classrooms would have a higher priority than a unit down that impacts a single classroom. And classrooms would have priority over other spaces in the building. So that's kind of already established. The problem now that we're addressing, and so, is that
I think we're kind of getting into the conversation now. Like, I mean, I think we might want to wait to hold that for that conversation
Okay.
when we get to it.
Okay.
Because I would want to respond in that, and we kind of, yeah, so.
All right. Any of the future topics? Mr. Carr, do you have any future topics?
No, I'm good for now. Thanks.
I do think that, I'll wait on that. I'll wait on another topic. I may email the board on that other topic. Yes, I'm gonna email you, the board on the other topic that I'm taking around. So I'll just wait.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Absolutely. So we moved.
Any objection? Any objection? Sending no and hearing no objection, motion passes. We adjourn.